The night the stranger stepped into my campfire's glow, the world seemed to hold its breath, and so did I, because there was something in her eyes. A storm, a plea, a history carved in shadows that made even the flames flicker as if afraid to touch her. But before I tell you how she changed the fate of a man who'd given up on people long ago, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, because these Wild West stories deserve every rider who joins the journey. She was shivering despite the heat, her hat pulled low, her hands clasped so tight her knuckles were white. I'd been traveling 3 days through the desert and had seen bandits, bounty hunters, and men who'd kill for a coin, but nothing stopped me cold like the cracked voice that escaped her trembling lips. Please, don't shoot. I lowered my hand from my revolver, surprised she thought I would. Women didn't normally wander this part of the frontier alone, and certainly not at night. You lost, I asked, but she shook her head slowly, painfully, like each movement scraped against old wounds. No, I came because you're the only one who stayed when everyone else walked away. That made no sense. Not yet, at least. I had never seen her before in my life. But as she stepped closer, the firelight revealed a face carved from loneliness, sharp cheekbones, soft trembling mouth, eyes full of a sorrow so heavy it pulled the air down with it. My name is Lyra, she whispered, and suddenly I understood why she looked afraid of her own shadow. Lyra Kane, a name even the rattlesnakes avoided. Jameson Kane, her father, was the most feared outlaw in the Western Territories, a man whose crimes darkened every town he rode through, a man hanged 5 months ago, but whose shadow still reached far. And now his daughter stood before me, alone in the desert night. I'm not like him, she said quickly, reading the shock on my face. I swear I'm not. Her voice cracked, and she wrapped her arms around herself, as if trying to hold together what little strength she had left. But people think I am. They think his blood made me dangerous, broken, cursed. I saw the truth then, not in her words, but in the desperate way she tried to shrink herself, as if her own name haunted her more than any outlaw ever could. You're not cursed, I said, but she shook her head violently. You don't know what they've done to me, she whispered. You don't know what they'll do to you just for being near me. The fire popped, and she flinched like a hunted animal. She wasn't lying. Anyone carrying the Kane name would be a target, of bounty hunters hungry for revenge, of families seeking justice, of men wanting to punish the daughter for the sins of the father. So why come to me? I asked gently. Her lips trembled. Because you saw him die, she whispered. You were there when he spoke his last words. My breath caught. She was right. I had been in the crowd the day they hanged Jameson Kane. Everyone expected him to spit curses or threats, but he surprised us all. He looked straight at me. Why me? I still don't know. And said, My daughter, protect her if she ever finds you. She's the only good thing I ever touched. I had never forgotten those words, even though I hadn't understood them. Not until now. Lyra sank to her knees by the fire, her fingers trembling as she held them toward the warmth. He wasn't a good man, she said. But he loved me, and the world hates me because of him. She glanced up at me, eyes shining with tears she fought to hide. I don't need saving. I just need someone who doesn't look at me like I'm a monster. A silence settled between us. Heavy, fragile, full of things neither of us dared say. I sat beside her, the fire warming our faces as the desert wind curled around us like a warning. You can stay tonight, I said softly. Rest. No one will hurt you here. Her breath shook as she nodded. Thank you, she whispered, voice breaking. You don't know what that means. I didn't, not yet. But I knew I wanted to. I knew there was something in Lyra Kane that called out to a part of me I thought had died with my brother, with the war, with the mistakes I buried deep. As she curled near the fire, falling into an exhausted sleep, I sat awake, staring at the stars and wondering what kind of man Jameson Kane had really been. To leave the world with a daughter like her, and why the weight of her safety suddenly felt like the purpose I'd been missing all along. He hesitated before speaking, his voice low, trembling. My dad, he made me this way. The stranger's eyes darkened as pain flickered through his expression, like he'd kept this truth buried for years. His hands shook, gripping the bench as if it were the only thing keeping him upright. Every scar, every fear, every moment I flinch, he trained it into me. The confession hung heavy in the air, raw and fragile, leaving me speechless and aching for him. He kept staring at the ground as if afraid the world would break if he looked up. "People think I'm quiet because I'm shy," he whispered, but the truth is, silence was the only thing that kept me safe. His breath hitched, and for the first time, I noticed the faint bruise beneath his sleeve, the kind that didn't come from accidents. If I laughed too loud, he punished me. If I cried, he punished me. If I dared to be myself, he punished me. His voice cracked, and he pressed a hand over his chest like he was trying to hold himself together. I learned to disappear, to shrink, to stop existing in ways he didn't approve of. He finally looked at me then, eyes red, glistening, full of a lifetime of swallowed pain. But today, something in me snapped. I walked out. I didn't even take a bag. His breath shivered. I don't know where I'm going. I just knew I couldn't survive one more day in that house. The weight of his confession wrapped around us both, a quiet storm neither of us could run from. The wind outside howled like it was mourning the years he had lost, but inside the small cabin everything was still. Heavy, fragile, waiting. He sat on the edge of the cot, hands trembling, as if letting the truth out had drained the strength he spent years pretending to have. "I keep thinking, maybe I'm broken forever," he murmured. "Maybe what he did to me, maybe it turned me into someone who'll never be normal." I knelt in front of him, lifting his chin gently until his eyes met mine. "You're not broken," I said, my voice firm, steady, carrying every ounce of sincerity I had. "You were never the one who was wrong." His breath caught, and for a moment he looked like that wounded child he had described, small, scared, waiting for permission to simply exist. Then something inside him shifted, subtle but real. "What do I do now?" he whispered. "Where do I even begin?" I took a slow breath, feeling the weight of his question. "You begin here. With truth, with choosing yourself for the first time." A single tear slid down his cheek, not from fear this time, but release, quiet, fragile, long overdue. He exhaled shakily, like the world finally felt breathable. "I don't know how to live without fear," he admitted. "Then we'll learn together," I said. His shoulders eased, the tension of years slowly unraveling. "Why are you helping me?" I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I placed a hand over his, warm, steady, grounding. "Because someone should have helped you a long time ago." His lips parted, not for an apology, not for regret, but for the first hint of hope he'd allowed himself in years. A dawn he never believed he deserved began to rise in his eyes. And in that fragile, quiet moment, he realized something that changed everything. The past had shaped him, but it no longer owned him. He did.